Lord, thank you for bringing us together to celebrate the freedoms and rights we enjoy in this country, in this beautiful community. Guide our thoughts and our decision-making process, that we may consider all the facts presented and make decisions fair to everyone concerned. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mayor Thompson,
Here.
Commissioner Akala,
Excused.
Commissioner Mantala,
Here.
Commissioner Stasinski,
Here.
and we have one vacancy.
First up, under public hearings, we have the wastewater treatment improvements final project plan.
We're at that stage now. We advertised in the paper. I would have voted and is here tonight. Project manager from C2AD, and we'll be giving a presentation and answer any questions.
Can everybody hear me all right? Good evening, everybody. My name is Darren Pyack. I'm the project manager for C2AE. Our address is 1211 Ludington Street, Escanaba. With me tonight, I have Dave Holmgren, project engineer, as well as Jacob Hopapura, staff engineer, and Ashley Hendricks, staff engineer, all from C2AE. Background for this project plan authorization and purpose. This study, the project plan, was originally authorized by the City of Gladstone via execution of letter proposed on February 17, 2018. A draft of the project plan was submitted to Eagle to meet requirements of SAW on May 20th, 2020, and to allow for a pilot study of the wastewater treatment plant to be completed prior to the final submittal of the project plan. The proposal for an updated project plan, this document that we're reviewing, was executed on February 9th, 2021. Next slide, please. So the study area, Gladstone is located in the southwestern Delta County on the west shore of Lake Michigan's, the Green Bay's Little Badenoch, in the south central region of Michigan's Upper Peninsula. The existing sanitary sewer service includes the entire city of Gladstone. Also served as are several homes in the Kipling area of Brampton Township and the community of Rapid River in Masonville Township, both north of the city. The environmental settings, the area in and around Gladstone has numerous environmental and cultural resources. The status of the resources and impact on them relative to the city's wastewater system was reviewed as part of the study. The primary goal of the wastewater treatment plant is to protect the quality of waters of the state of Michigan and to protect public health. Ultimately, the driving force for the study and the potential construction of the recommended improvements is the protection and enhancement of quality of the wastewater treatment effluent discharge in Little Badenoch. Population. Gladstone's population is approximately 4,900, while the wastewater system service area population is approximately 5,400, which includes customers in Rapid River and Kipling. Economics. The economic conditions of Gladstone area are primarily influenced by a major industry, the paper mill in the nearby Escanaba Wells Township, tourism, recreation, and a few smaller forestry, manufacturing, service, commercial enterprises in the city. The city's waterfront provides boating, fishing, and other water-related services. Existing facilities. Gladstone began providing municipal sewer service to its residents in the early 1900s, with the first iteration of the current wastewater treatment plant constructed in 1954. A major upgrade to RBC treatment came in 1972 to 1974. Gladstone's wastewater collection system, city-owned portion, consists of 32 miles of 8-inch to 30-inch gravity sewer and 10 pump stations ranging in capacity from 40 to 400 gallons per minute. The wastewater treatment plant equipment processes include raw sewage screening and pumping, flow measurement, grit removal, primary settling, rotating biological contactor, secondary treatment, chlorination, outfall to Little Bay to Knock, and digesters for biosolids management. Evaluations of the Gladstone wastewater treatment plant and its processes have been prepared for the peak 25-year, 24-hour instantaneous wet weather flow of 4.2 mgd, million gallons per day, based on the system hydraulic model created in SAW Asset Management Plan. The proposed maximum hour hydraulic flow is 3.5 mgd, million gallons per day, based on historic records and with allowance for future tributary flows. This compares to an original maximum hour hydraulic flow of 2.5 mgd, the existing average annual flow of 0.66 mgd prior to 2019, compared to the original design capacity of 1.0 mgd. Because Gladstone exceeds maximum I&I infiltration and inflow guidelines of the state of Michigan, it was necessary to complete an I&I study. Average annual flow in 2018 and 2019 have increased with very high groundwater levels created by the record Great Lakes levels. The annual average flow in 2018 was 0.67 mgd, and in 2019 the annual average flow was 0.94 mgd. Fiscal sustainability through historic established principles and programming developed via the state SAW-funded asset management planning, the city has addressed asset inventory, asset evaluation, water energy conservation, and asset maintenance and funding. Next slide, please. Need for the project. Gladstone's wastewater treatment plant generally operates in compliance with the MPDES permit. The system is well operated and maintained, however, it's moderately old and has not received a major capital investment in several decades. An Eagle enforcement notification with a draft administrative consent order was delivered to Gladstone in February 2021. This is precipitated by excessive I&I in the collection system, along with wastewater treatment plant needed improvements. The wastewater treatment plant was upgraded in 1974 to treat an annual flow of 1.0 mgd and a maximum sustained rate through secondary treatment of 2.5 mgd. Evaluations under the SAW program propose a future peak design flow of 3.5 mgd to include increased infiltration in aging pipes and to reflect potential growth of Masonville, Kipling, and North Bluff areas. 4.2 mgd to account for a calculated 2.25-year, 24-hour precipitation event. The goal is to protect the state's surface and groundwater quality and public health. Ability to reliably meet these goals moving forward would be adversely affect without the project. The project will improve treatment reliability and efficiency. Next slide, please. Analysis of alternatives. Potential alternatives. A number of potential alternatives were reviewed and or evaluated and were found lacking under current conditions. The following included no action, would not address problems, issues, and not consider a responsible method of asset management and provide utilities system service to its customers. optimum performance of existing facilities, currently occurring limited to current equipment, water and energy efficiency, part of recommended improvements and also limited by current equipment, regionalization, not currently considered cost-effective nor politically achievable, and the last one is a new wastewater treatment plant facility. The principal alternatives that we looked at, the first one was existing process upgrade, to upgrade the existing wastewater treatment plant to accept the treatable design flow of 3.5 mgd, 4.2 mgd peak hydraulic rate. Involves generally upgrading the existing treatment process as outlined in prior studies. Alternate 1 includes a new automatic fine screen and grit removal process along with new administration building and major upgrades to the primary treatment, secondary treatment, and digestion. Biosolids handling is by means of anaerobic digestion and agricultural land application. This alternative includes many improvements aimed at long-term reliability and facility sustainability, many of which are common to all the alternatives. The second alternative we looked at was RBF primary treatment and RBC secondary treatment. This alternative involves replacement of the current primary settling process with new innovative rotating belt filters, primary process, and upgrade of the existing rotating biological contactor, secondary treatment. Biosolids handling is by means of anaerobic or aerobic digestion and land application. Many common improvements are to be included under this alternative. Alternative number 3, oxidation ditch. Alternative 3 is the replacement of the existing primary and secondary fixed film treatment with extended aeration oxidation ditches. The oxidation ditch installation would involve abandonment of the existing primary settling and RBC secondary process and construction of 2 new oxidation ditches to provide secondary treatment by means of extended aeration. This option avoids the need for existing or new primary settling tanks, but requires that sludge digestion be by means of aerobic process. This requires conversion of aerobic digesters to anaerobic, or anaerobic digesters to aerobic digesters by a solids disposal is by land application. Alternate number 4, RBF primary treatment and moving belt bioreactor secondary treatment. Alternate 4 utilizes rotating belt filter primary treatment as a cost-effective substitute for conventional primary settling, as in alternate number 2. Moving bed bioreactors, MBBRs, are used as an upcoming fixed film secondary process to reduce the mechanical maintenance requirements potentially associated with RBCs. MBBR treatment is relatively new, but this process is recently approved in Michigan by EGLE. With MBBR treatment, it will be possible to install RBF units in the space currently occupied by RBCs within the existing building. It is proposed that RBF with a conventional headworks system be installed adjacent to the existing headworks area. Under this option, biosolids handling will be aerobic digestion with a full land application of waste solids. Common facility improvements are also included. Alternate number 5, primary clarifier with moving bed bioreactor secondary treatment. Alternate number 5 combines components of alternate 1 and 4, combining expanding traditional primary treatment represented in alternate number 1, while replacing the aging RBC units with MBBR secondary treatment, presented in alternate number 4. Upgrades would also consist of conventional headworks system with upgraded raw sewage pumping, including new automatic fine screen and vortex grit removal, additional fine clarifier tank, or final clarifier tank, along with biosolids handling is by means of anaerobic digestion. However, C2A is continuing research Class A solids options for the city. A sludge dehumidification system may be implemented for somewhat less cost-effective on the capital and present work basis, but it offers several strong benefits, including flexible to handle future regulations, land applications of Class A marketable biosolids, landfill and emergency situations, and other reasons presented in biosolids handling section below. Common facility improvements are also included with this alternative. Future collection system improvements will be required as part of the administrative consent order. The city intends to partition the total collection system needs into numerous construction phases over the next several decades. This will enable improvements within the limited financial capacity of the service district. Selected alternative. The selected alternative is alternate number 5, conventional primary treatment, moving bed bioreactor secondary treatment with anaerobic digestion and land application of biosolids. A complete list of improvements is summarized below. New administration building, existing service building modifications for proposed treatment, raw sewage pumping improvements, additional primary clarifier to north of existing, MBBR tanks and treatment equipment, secondary sludge pumping, final clarifier improvements, add third settling tank and piping, secondary treatment pumps, hydraulic capacity improvements, electrical service upgrade with standby generator, SCADA control and monitoring system, HVAC rehabilitation asset upgrade, facility piping and valves, facility surface restoration, concrete, masonry, and painting, site improvements, digester improvements, anaerobic digester mixing and rehabilitation, digester gas boiler and heat exchanger, digester gas handling equipment, digester gas piping and valves, secondary digester rehabilitation, chlorine contact rehabilitation asset upgrade, roof replacement asset upgrade, and selected and door asset upgrade. Project cost. Table 1 below is a summary of the anticipated project cost. Greater detail is provided under the selection alternative section of the report and is located in Appendix D. Note that subtotal value presented in the table below is comprised of engineering total plus administration legal with the construction dollars included. Construction total, proposed project cost of construction cost $13,728,000 or $728,000. Administrative, legal, and bonding $145,000. Engineering total $2,180,000 for a subtotal of $16,053,000. Contingencies are estimated at $964,000 for a total project cost of $17,017,000. Project location. The initial project will be located on the site of the existing wastewater treatment plant, which sits on the southerly side of Minneapolis Avenue between 4th and 5th Streets adjacent to Little Bay Denok. Future collection system work will concentrate on older sewers within the city proper. controlling factors. Planning and design will be in accordance with applicable industry standards, including EGLE standards, WEF, MOP 8, Manual of Practice, 10 state standards for wastewater, and normal practice. EGLE and U.S. Corps of Engineers permitting requirements, OSHA and MIOSHA requirements, SHPO and Tribal Preservation Office requirements, regional utility standards. Special assessment. No special assessment are planned to aid in financing any of the alternatives. Sensitive features. Work will take place on treatment facility grounds and be isolated from any potential sensitive environmental locations. It will be necessary to protect the waters of Little Badenoch during construction. I&I related sewer construction, when it occurs, will be in previously disturbed city street right away. Schedule. The proposed project schedule is aimed at a complete SRF funding application submittal in June of 2021, design in 2021 and early 2022, and construction planned for 2022 through 2024. Authorization to implement. The City of Gladstone has undertaken numerous public works projects in the past, and it has the municipal authority and demonstrated ability to administer the current proposed undertaking. User cost. User rate impacts for the proposed project are noted in detail in the report. Potential rate increases have already been presented, up to an estimated $29.25 per month on average, which has already been reviewed as a rate increase by the City Council. Disadvantaged community. The disadvantaged community determination status submittals will be made during the project planning and the CWRF application process. Useful life. Remaining useful life of all wastewater assets is available in the 2019 and 2020 SAW Asset Management Plan, Process Evaluation, and Asset Rating List. Evaluation of environmental impacts. The anticipated environmental impacts resulting from implementation of selected alternative can include beneficial and detrimental short and long-term and irretrievable impacts. Impacts of the recommended plan are primarily beneficial, but some short-term construction-related negative impacts do exist. The short-term adverse impacts associated with construction activities would be minimal in comparison to long-term continued benefits to the area through improved infrastructure. The project segments are not expected to have adverse effects relative to limiting the range of future land or water use options, fossil fuel, human labor, construction materials, and wear on equipment would be utilized during construction. Financial resources of Gladstone and the state of Michigan would also be committed. Analysis of impacts. No disturbance is planned of significant natural or man-made features or vegetation. No significant impact is expected on floodplain, wetlands, shorelands, or streams. Where applicable, contract documents will require construction methods and disturbed areas to be minimized regarding their impact to the site and neighboring areas. The project should not have impact on endangered species, significant plant communities, natural features, or prime and unique agricultural land. Any required mitigation measures would be coordinated with EGLE during the design and permitting process. Construction of the Gladstone Wastewater Treatment Plant improvements is not anticipated to have any adverse effect on historic, archaeological, geological, or recreational areas. All construction will take place on City of Gladstone Wastewater Treatment Plant property. Excavation as previously unexcavated areas is very limited. No long-term adverse indirect or cumulative impacts are anticipated for future discussion can be found in the body of the report. Mitigation, short-term impacts. Construction impacts anticipated include groundwater control in areas of inferior structural pipe bedding and backfill soil materials. These are normal occurrences with construction areas, and prior planning design will create situations where these problems will pose no significant difficulties for qualified contractors. Construction traffic will be regulated by the construction documents and city ordinance policy. Long-term impacts. The city does not expect any long-term impacts from the general construction activities. Long-term operational uses will not be adversely changed by the project. Rather, operations should be enhanced through new, more reliable equipment, installation, and treatment processes. Indirect impacts. Long-range planning by the City of Gladstone identify the project segments evaluated in this report, and all impacts take place within the wastewater treatment plant property or developed city streets and would not affect any planning and zoning in the community. Costs and less tangible impacts such as construction traffic would not have disproportionate impact any area group. Impacts are spread evenly amongst community collection system users. Next slide, please. Public participation. Public meeting. Wastewater collection system needs and potential fixes have been openly noted during several city commission meetings over the past several years. This includes council meeting that presented the SAW findings by C2AE in December of 2020. A council meeting that approved the resolution to submit the I&I to EGLE and authorized notice of intent in December 2019, and during the rate review presentations by UFS in November 2019. Public hearing. A formal public hearing on this project was advertised on April 13th, 2021 and held May 17th, 2021 during a regular city commission meeting. Actually a special commission meeting, sorry. A verbatim transcript of the minutes is included for this project. Thank you.
Aaron,
Thanks.
Can I enhance one little thing just a little bit before the council opens it up to questions? I just want to be careful if I could. We did mention in there very briefly about an option that hadn't been selected, and that's, for the most part, we talked about anaerobic digestion as being the selected option, is what they've been, Don and Eric and Rodney have been using for 30 years out there. But we are looking very heavily at another option, which is dehumidification or electrical drying of sludge. And our people in the Eagle administrators want us to be really careful to talk about both of these because the final decision hasn't been made on that yet. The dehumidification process would be for the Class A biosolids that were discussed in here. Class A biosolids are ones that you can give to the local people. They can take it home and put it in their flower beds. Now, we can't do that with Class B, what Rodney's been doing. However, when we looked at it, the anaerobic digestion, formation of Class B biosolids, land applications, we've been doing it, has a slightly cheaper or slightly more cost effective. When we looked at the dehumidification process, we figured it about $100,000 more on a capital basis. And we're comparing that to your overall project of 13 point some million, you know. On a present worth basis, which 20-year present worth basis, which factors in the energy cost, the electrical costs over 20 years, the 20-year present worth cost was about $700,000 more. Now that again sounds like a huge number. It is a huge number, but on the kind of numbers we're talking about for the selected alternative, the 20-year present worth being like 24 million. You know, it isn't bad. And you know, Rodney, Eric, and all of us will be making that decision here in the near future, but we've been waiting for some information that hasn't been available to us. But I think Eagle feels are willing to approve, even though it's slightly more, are willing to approve this dehumidification process. And they wanted to be real careful, we talked about that, so that both channels are open and for us. So, thank you.
Thanks.
Can I ask a question about that? How do we get rid of the biosolids now that's through, we truck it to some places, is that how it works?
Yep.
Okay, so there's cost to truck it. And you're gonna dehumidify, so it's gonna be solids?
Yeah, yes,
So does that have to go to a landfill?
No,
I mean, if you have extra, I mean, will we take it to the same place and take the liquid and dump it?
maybe I should just say real briefly, the anaerobic digestion option, which has been done for a long time very effectively here by the city of Gladstone and cost effective, that digests it in anaerobic digesters, then it's land applied on city-owned and protected land as Class B biosolids, which aren't quite as, the vector attraction, bacteria, and things aren't quite as controlled as well. Now, the dehumidification option we're talking about puts it at 95% solids, kind of like a bag of the manure you buy at Mel's, you know? And it is purified enough that it can be given to the public without danger of sickness or adverse health effects. So that's the difference.
Could it be sold?
It could be sold, yes. That's a different angle, but yes, selling is an option.
So it's
That could take some discussion, but yes, it is.
clean enough and safe enough to,
Sell, absolutely.
okay.
Eric, get some 5-pound bags. We're in business.
So we'll go ahead and we'll open the public comment period. 3 minutes. State your name and your address. Be clear and concise and,
Michael Connor? Up there.
Yep.
yes, please.
I guess the first question I have is,
State your name and
oh,
address, please.
Mike O'Connor, 526 Minnesota Avenue.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess the first question is, everything is really driven by the infiltration of water into the sewer system. And, I mean, that hasn't been talked about at all, or what the costs are. We're making it appears we're making the wastewater plant larger to handle more water that's seeping into the collection network. And what are the plans to fix the collection network, and how much will it cost?
This is public comment.
Oh, I see, no answers. Okay, so,
Answers later possibly, but right
but
now
maybe
it's
not.
time to comment.
Okay, and then I'm also wondering, well, I guess I won't get any answers, how many times we've actually had overflows into the lake over the last couple of years. I know that according to the mathematical model that's been used, we're over on a theoretical basis, but I'm not sure how many times we've actually had the wastewater plant overcome with water that had to be pumped out into the lake. So those are my two issues: is how much more is it going to cost for the collection, and are we oversizing the wastewater plant because of that? Because we're not looking at the collection.
Thank you. Please.
Part of the requirements by EGO in regards to the public comment is that we make comment to the public's questions. So the first one in regards to the infiltration, part of our project plan, actually even before the project plan with the I&I study that we completed, but as it evolved into the project plan, we did look at alternatives in regards to taking care of the I&I.
Is the I&I study from MSA?
No, that was our
They
study.
they assisted in some of the work. But
Yeah,
it's
they-
not from
Okay.
Yeah, it was a kind of a joint I&I between MSA and C2A as part of the SAW program. Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, MSA did the flow monitoring component of it. But in the project plan, we looked at actually 4 alternatives. One was improving the wastewater treatment plant or adding treatment to take care of the I&I. We also looked at equalization, storing some of the additional sewage on high flow demand time periods, storing it while we can treat it later on. Third option we looked at was sewer reconstruction, so your sewer collection system reconstruction, and the sewer rehab. So we looked at all four of those options, and based on the present worth analysis, just for the I&I component of it, it was determined that the most cost-effective way was to improve the plant in regards to the treatment. Now that the total cost of the project is not all I&I related. There are many components of the plant itself that are well past their service life that are getting to the point that they need to be taken care of. And so it's a joint effort in regards to upgrading the plant with new equipment, with new technologies, as well as helping treat the I&I issue at this point in time.
Okay, I guess I'm confused because all the work is being done at the plant, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we're not talking about any of the collection system at all being done, any work, it has to do with the 17 million.
That's correct. This is for the plant itself, yes.
Like, just because you mentioned a couple of things you've done, I wasn't sure that
Yeah.
was included in what you did.
No, that would, the analysis took the whole city into, part of the analysis in regards to the collection system. Was it 22,000 feet? Roughly 22,000 feet of I&I, or of pipe would have to be replaced to help, I guess, equalize the efforts at the plant upgrades. The issue we have with I&I is we can take care of the I&I with the old pipes and the joints on the main portion of the sewer pipe. What you have problems with is that the laterals going to the houses. We can only go up so far. It could be a very high percentage of the I&I coming from the private city or private property component of it. So it's not a replace the pipe and you're eliminating 100% of the I&I, because there are still components out there that we cannot address. In regards to the overflows, I don't have any information in regards to how many overflows you've had.
I don't have that with me, but I know.
What were you kind of think that water flow untreated or blended or?
I don't know if you can go in. I know in 2020, we had at least 2 incidents at wastewater plant where it was going over its year.
If I might add to what Rodney said, Gladstone, unlike a lot of the communities in the UP, do not have any registered overflows. So they're able to contain and treat all of their flows except in very unusual circumstances. And what Rodney's talking about there was a very unusual circumstance. You saw how the annual average flow in 2018 was like 0.67, and in 2019 it was like 0.94 or something. So we saw like a 30 or 40% in average annual flow in a year. And it was in that really bad time that Rodney has that wrestling match. But I don't know, Eric, I've been working with Don Fear and Eric Buckman and now Rodney for approaching 30 years. And he probably didn't call me every time they had an overflow, but I'm thinking it was, very few. Where we have a lot of plants in the UP with registered overflows, and every time you get a big rain, So I've always thought, and Tom will say, I argued with these guys a little bit, that Gladstone's on the good side of that. But nonetheless, it still sneaks up and gets us with the regulations.
So the overflows are coming out of the second year.
That's right. That would be, yeah.
Okay, so explain just those tiles, so it did have some, there was some, it went through the system, but there was enough to hold it base there.
Partially treated?
First answer.
Secondary clarified. The only, the other ones were the problems that we were having with the underpass lift station. That's
Any other public comment? Mhm. Please.
Still haven't gotten used to Eagle. Tom Asmus, I'm the compliance manager for the east half of the UP, including Gladstone. 615 Spruce Street, Marquette District Office. I want to compliment the city, though, on getting 47 years of service out of this wastewater treatment plant. That's I've been in the wastewater industry about 30 years, and I've never seen a plant that's gone this amount of time without significant upgrades just to address worn out equipment, worn out processes, safety concerns, things such as that. So my compliments to the city for doing that. It's quite a feat. I know they still have major breakdowns. About once a year we do lose half the biological treatment capacity of the plant. So nice job on that. That's really something to go that length of time. One of the other things I just wanted to bring up was safety concerns of the employees. I know specifically with electrical disconnects and they're giving the operators the ability to lock equipment out. That's been an issue. So that's first and foremost, really. Ventilation, I think that's probably the reason is inadequate ventilation, that you've got some corrosion in the electrical, the buckets in the plant that are causing some of those issues. Typically, wastewater plants go about 20, top end of 30 years before necessitating upgrades to maintain compliance and safety standards. So just to give you an idea of how long this tool has lasted the city and served the city well for that amount of time is really impressive. So, but it's time for some new equipment to hopefully last another 47 years. I hope you get that much time out of it the next round. So anyway, that's all I've got.
Thank you. Any other comments from anybody? Anybody in the audience? We'll close the public hearing. Any commissioner comments?
I had one question, going back to the dehumidification process, and maybe Tom can shed a little light on this too. Is that something that might come down the line as a requirement in the future? You said it's not a requirement right now, but they're saying it's okay to do it because it's a good idea, but it's not a requirement. Is that something, if we didn't do it, we'd be looking at increased retrofit costs later, say, to who knows, next 5 years down the road to meet those new requirements?
I think Tom can address that better than I would. Let me just say we did try to research that so we could present to Rodney the facts on that matter. And as the engineer, it was our understanding that the day we're I think the dehumidification process is just one of many means of achieving what we call Class A biosolids.
I guess that's my question. Are we going to be required to
Yep.
process the Class A level?
And it's our understanding that day is not imminent. What does imminent mean? We don't see that coming within the next decade, and who knows when. But at that point, we tried to give Rodney best information we could. But let me ask Tom that same question in that sort of thing. well, what's your thoughts? We did talk about Ron Wolf and
The Class A option opens up more opportunities for disposal. I guess Class A is more regulated. Class B is less regulated. I think it's very, very likely that they would ever get a mandate to
Okay.
Class A. They're both good options, just different way of being
Is the electrical dehumidification, is that the most economical way to dehumidify? Is there?
That's one of the questions, or some of the data we're waiting on to give Rodney the full picture to make a decision. Let me stand up again. This particular one we're looking at seems to be very electrically cost efficient, more than some of the other manufacturers we looked at. But we're waiting for some additional data, and it's also a little more complex than anaerobic digestion. It's a little more of a piece of equipment. So we're trying to, they're gonna be starting one up in Marinette here pretty quick. There aren't many around. They're relatively new. They're gonna be starting one up in Marinette, which is lucky. We're hoping to get Rodney and the guys over to see that. We're hoping to get some data from it. But yes, this, to answer the question, the Cinchi dehumidification process still uses electrical energy. It's still not quite as cost effective as anaerobic digestion, but seems to have taken a leap in terms of being more energy efficient than some of the other drying processes we've been considering over the years, if we find their claims to be true. So.
Interesting. Any other questions?
Another thing that's out there that we have to think about too are the PFAS, polyfluorinated fuel substances, or whatever they're called, but we don't know what that's gonna be like, because we're just starting to do this like right now, and if we happen to have that problem, we're gonna have to haul it to landfill anyway, right now, to dry it and haul it solid or landfill.
Eric's saying absolutely, yeah. And when Rodney takes the Class B biosolids away from the plant, we get it thicker, but he takes it away at 3, 4, 5% now or something. And when we get this dehumidification, Class A biosolids, we're looking at about 90% solids. And so you can see there's that much water we're not paying to dump at the landfill. So Eric's bringing up an excellent point. So if something like that were to be the case, it would be cost effective really quick.
Mm-hmm. Do you have to worry about the humidity that's generated when you dry that? Is it toxic or?
No, it's just
No.
moisture for the most part. Now,
Mhm.
this is relatively new, and I'll admit to being on the learning curve a little bit on this,
Mhm.
but that's not come to our attention that that's a problem at all. For the most part, that would be an air quality issue, and in this case, it would be contained within the plant. So if it did become something, we worst case scenario, we'd have some kind of a scrubber or something, but we would expect to be able to capture it before it got away from us.
Okay. Does that have to be permitted to the exhaust?
At this time, you've got a good question. I don't have a good sound answer for that. Tom, any thoughts?
No.
It hasn't come to my attention that that was
It's not
happening.
enough volume of.
And you've got anaerobic digesters now that
Right.
are doing the same thing as.
Mhm.
We don't think that is an impacting side of the equation, but I appreciate the question. Just pay more attention.
I'm just curious. It's kind of a neat new idea.
Question for Marinette.
Yes, yes.
Any
We're
other?
going to make a decision pretty quick on that. Marinette seems to keep lagging. Like everything, is just a little bit later than we thought.
Last year probably didn't help. Any other questions from anybody? Well, no action required.
To do I-9 from Eagle, homicide, we still have to do I-9. So how much do we have to do, how much will it cost? I don't know. Because the hit for the sewer plant is gonna be $30 a month for 30 years, it's like a house mortgage. That starts to hit. But I don't know how much more it's gonna be, and we can't do the lateral side, unless we go in there and reline each one of them.
material costs have had to be up significantly too.
That's part of it. Just
Yeah.
had to add an inflationary factor, just to cover the, apartment and reconstruction. We've seen the cost of years escalating prices for pipe, shortage of pipe, shortage of contractors as well, so, had to put a larger inflationary factor just to cover the city service costs.
Anything else before we move on to the new business?
Darren, should we talk maybe a little bit about the possibility of principal forgiveness?
Yeah,
Is that right? That there is a possibility?
yeah, and, where we're at right now, the city of Gladstone is considered a disadvantaged community, and so those requirements will go in with their final project plan. So there could be a potential for some principal forgiveness from the state on the SRF loan program. Probably not going to know until they finalize the project plan. We get this document to the state, they review it, and then put the city on a priority list accordingly. But there is a potential for what they call principal forgiveness. Some people might call it grant money, but the loan is actually for the full amount, and then they forgive a portion of the principal component of it. So there's a potential there. It just really depends on all the projects in the state of Michigan that are being submitted at the same time as we are, how we qualify and are on the priority list, and what type of funding that the state has. Yes, there's money being administered to the state as well as to the counties and cities and townships in regards to some of the stimulus money. So there might be an option. I think it's a good point to note that we're hoping that we can get a percentage of the cost principal forgive. I just can't tell you any type of percentage at this point in time.
Anything else before we move on to the new business?
Oh, one thing, I need to have a motion, request to close the public hearing and close the public session.
I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing and close the public comment session. Support. We have a motion by myself, support by Commissioner Stasinski to close the motion, or close the public comment and
Public hearing.
and the public hearing. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. Next up, we have the proposal for professional services wastewater treatment plan basis of design.
Actually, there is another public comment
Oh,
period just for,
Yeah, there's the resolution first, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Resolution number 2021-05, adopting a final project plan for wastewater treatment improvements and designated the authorized project representative. We have a public comment in between here, other than the public?
yeah, and the public hearing is separate from any other public comment that somebody may have.
Okay, so we'll open it up to the conventional public comment prior to the new business. If anybody'd like to speak, they can step up to the podium.
Can I just say what a wonderful presentation this was? I think you did a great job.
Yep.
Next time you can sit the BK.
So there being no public comment, then we'll move on to the resolution, number 2021, adopting a final project plan for wastewater treatment improvements and designing and designating the authorized project representative.
Thanks, Eric, I'll read it for you. Resolution adopting the final project plan for wastewater system improvements, or MPS, pollution control, stormwater improvements, and designated and authorized project representative. Whereas the city of Gladstone recognizes the need to make improvements to the existing wastewater treatment and collection system, or its existing MPS pollution control stormwater treatment system. And whereas the city of Gladstone authorizes C2AE to prepare a project plan which recommends the project shall consist of improvements to the city wastewater treatment plant. Scope of work include but not limited to raw sewage and secondary pumping improvements, primary treatment headwork system, additional primary clarifier, replace RBC secondary treatment with MBBRs, additional final clarifier, secondary treatment pumps, hydraulic capacity improvements, digester improvements, upgrades to miscellaneous infrastructure to maintain plant reliability, and improvements to administration, storage, maintenance facilities. And whereas said project plan was presented at the public hearing held May 17th, 2021 at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and all public comments have been considered and addressed. Now therefore be it resolved that the city of Gladstone formally adopts said project plan and agrees to implement the selected alternative number 5. Be it further resolved, the city manager, position held by Eric Buckman, is designated as the authorized representative for all activities associated with the project referenced above, including the submittal of said project plan as the first step in applying for the state of Michigan for revolving fund loan to assist in the implementation of selected alternative.
Thank you. We'll entertain a motion for the resolution.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 2021-05 as presented.
Support.
We have a motion by Commissioner Szynski, support by Commissioner Mantala, to approve the resolution as read. All those in favor?
Aye.
I think we need a roll call
Roll
vote.
call, yeah. Commissioner Stasinski?
Yes.
Commissioner Akla is absent and excused. Commissioner Mantala?
Yes.
And Mayor Thompson?
Yes.
And we have one vacancy.
The resolution is approved. Next up, we have the proposal for professional services wastewater treatment plant basis of design.
Yeah, for the most part, all this work we've been doing with the, UAE was actually through the, started and was financed through the SAW program, but we're now on, a part of the process that we, need a basis of design, and, of course, UAE has in place that they have to take, and so, we need to sign a contract with them to get the ball rolling, so we can get this moving. It's listed in the project plan, and, it's also eligible expense that we could use some of the American Rescue Plan money that we're getting, or possibly the county would share with us.
Yeah, this is, has not been reviewed for.
It's nice that the money came along then. Any questions, commissioners?
Well, do you know how much money we're looking at potentially receiving for that rescue plan?
Do you have a better idea? Or are we,
Numbers that have been floating around for quite a while, but they're still waiting for actually, just an estimate is about 460,000. That was a number from Congress. They're still waiting for
board decision.
Yeah. And this wastewater project is a pretty good looking, county project as we do serve, a couple of the other townships. That's the way we're looking at it.
Would make a motion that we approve the proposal and authorize the city manager to sign the agreement.
Support.
Support by Commissioner Mantala. Motion by myself, support by Commissioner Mantala. Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. That concludes our meeting for tonight. We're adjourned.